Hey, Thomas, in your new role, I mean, how much is that, I guess, challenging you to kind of step outside of the running, some of the running game stuff, to help you grow maybe into a bigger position such as an OC?
Well, obviously very challenging. You're talking about going from, my whole background has been as a player, playing running back my entire life from the time I'm 8 years old until the time I got done playing with the Browns when my career went to go die to, coaching 8 years in the NFL as a running backs, coaching in college, excuse me, for 8 years as a running backs coach and going for the last 2 years here as a running backs coach. Being able to have an opportunity to have more input and more involvement in the pass game has been huge for me. And being able to have some I won't call them growing pains when it comes to being able to be in those different rooms, but also just the overall growth and development is the biggest part of me from the move from the running back spot to coaching tight ends.
And also, Thomas, part of it with the protections now, it's a little different, I guess, because you're having some inline guys. You're probably working with some of the combinations with the guards, tackles, and receivers in that. How much do you think this will help you, in a different perspective with protections and those types of things?
Yeah, I would say, Steve, is less when it comes to protection because of how we do our protection system. It's more of a running back involved when it comes to our six-man drop back pro. We don't use the tight ends a whole lot when it comes to our protection game, but being able to be involved up front when it comes to our combination blocks, whether it be a triple on the outside zone or backside zone cutoffs with C's when it comes to the backside of tight zone or mid zone, or being able to get involved in some of these YAP schemes and coach those schemes. It's going to be hugely, very beneficial for me as a coach and be able to challenge me, force me to grow, which is always what I've always asked for and prayed for, is to be an opportunity where I had access to knowledge, but also I think places of comfort are great, but you never grow in places of comfort. So being able to get outside my comfort zone and force myself to grow and have some more involvement and keep rolling here with the Rams.
You got it, Thomas.
Maria?
Thanks, Steve.
Hey, Thomas, this might be kind of a weird question, but now that you have won a Super Bowl with the Rams, does it change your mindset in any way, or sort of what does the emotion feel like knowing you just won a Super Bowl?
That's a really good question, Maria. I would say I'm kind of a weird guy. So, I mean, I was obviously excited to win it that day and that night. Had a great celebration at the party, and then we had a great parade experience. But after that, my mind was kind of focused on moving forward. I'll probably appreciate it more as my career goes on. Probably my career gets done, I can kind of reflect and look back. I think once you get the ring on your finger, it probably will bring up some more emotions. But I'm always trying to be like in the present moment where I am, moving forward, what is next versus what I've done already before in the past experience. So obviously extremely blessed and spoiled to be in my second year in the NFL to win a Super Bowl. So that's definitely something most people have an opportunity to do. I don't care how long you coach, but I'll probably have a better feeling, more emotions about when it comes to, 5, 6, 7, maybe 10 years down the road, to be honest with you.
Do you kind of feel like you just put it away for now and then just start all over again?
Definitely. I mean, you talk about being able to have the move of a new role, but obviously a brand new year, different team, different coaching staff, getting back to work. Our players get back in the building on Monday. So just after that short time of vacation, kind of took some time off with the family, kind of try to get re-energized for a quick second, but then be able to go back to be in the office, starting draft prep, evaluating free agents, and obviously getting ready for our guys to come back in the building, like I just said.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
Greg?
Hey, Thomas, Greg Beecham with the AP. Thanks for doing this.
No problem, Greg. How you doing?
Good, man. Good. Speaking of getting outside your comfort zone, Sean told us that you played a major role in identifying and hiring your replacement as running backs coach. Can you tell us about that process, what that was like, and how you came upon Rashad and what you like about him?
Absolutely. So I would say first, it was really Sean's idea to be able to have an opportunity for me to move from running backs coaching to tight ends, which I definitely appreciate him for that. It was not my thought. And I'll be honest with you, at the beginning, I was somewhat reluctant to it just because I've kind of I've tried to master my career have my craft around, running back play development when it comes to every single detail when it comes to that position. But talking about Rashad, I mean, I had an opportunity to sit down with Sean and talk about, how we kind of saw that role, who we're looking for, and he kind of just fit the bill from day one. And I kind of got connected with Rashad through Brian Carrington, who's now at TCU. He's a really good friend of mine for the last few years. And it's funny because last year, BC, Brian Carrington came to our Bill Walsh Minority internship during training camp, and it was maybe like a Wednesday night. He actually FaceTimed Rashad, and we kind of got connected and talked about Rashad possibly being the guy next year for training camp to have a chance to come in to be a part of the internship, and now he's the running backs coach. But I heard a lot of great things about Rashad. Obviously, great resume, You talk about a fast rising star that I thought I moved around pretty fast when I was in college. He kind of shot past everything I did at an early age, and being able to have an opportunity to go from just a offensive assistant to running backs coach to assistant head coach to a recruiting coordinator, run game coordinator. So have an opportunity to kind of vet him through the process, call guys that kind of knew him. And you kind of heard the same consistent theme and story. People always said he has got a bright future, great recruiter, but wasn't great with the ball aspect of it, which is the exact opposite, which kind of irritated me because I think sometimes guys always get labeled in college as this recruiter, which he does that as a high level. You could have an opportunity to kind of talk to him and connect with him when it comes to how he communicates with people. But he was blew us away, I would say, in the first 15, 20 minutes. We knew he was a guy. We probably interviewed him for a total of, I would say maybe an hour plus. But I would say right off the bat, knew he was a guy, great communicator, bright future. Excited to have him here.
Thank you, sir.
Over to answer your question.
Stu.
Hey, Thomas, great to see you again.
Great to see you too, Stu.
So just to follow up on what you mentioned about it being Sean's idea to, have you coach the tight ends, to the extent you can expand on that, what was kind of his pitch and why do you think that would be good for, your career, your development, your growth, all that stuff?
Well, I think kind of just piggybacking off what Steve kind of opened it with when it comes to those questions, being able to have and being a different role, kind of just force myself to grow, but also having more involvement, more input in the pass game, where sometimes as a running backs coach, for whatever reason, by default or whatever, everywhere I've been, you kind of been excluded from those rooms or that conversation. Obviously, we do everything together for the most part when it comes to group installs, and Sean or Liam are kind of run when it comes to the pass game install. But being able to have a chance to actually coach those routes, those concepts, like you said before, having an opportunity to be able to be involved when it comes to upfront combination between our tackles, our tight ends, even just the individual blocking with those guys versus different techniques, whether it be a 6 technique, a 9 technique, or 8 technique, or 6 out on the backside of it. Was kind of just the thought process kind of went into being able to continue to develop and grow, which is always appreciated and looking forward to.
And then to touch on Rashad again, you don't see too many 27-year-old running backs coaches in the NFL, obviously. What convinced you, whether it was in the interview process or at any point in your relationship with him, that you knew he was ready to take on this role and handle it?
Hey, you don't see too many 27-year-old position coaches peer. I don't care what they coach in the NFL level, but I do agree with what you said. And just I think being able to have the opportunity to kind of hear from people at SMU, people at TCU about the person, the character first, just makes you going to be able to fit into our environment, our culture. And I think being able to have an opportunity to be a young guy that can kind of come in and not have a big ego, wants to learn, wants to grow, but just being able to articulate himself in the interview process, his detail when it comes to running back play, which again, I've kind of committed my entire career so far to understanding that position, those roles, how you drill stuff, how you coach stuff up when it comes to whether it be taking the handoff, getting in the stands, making the defender miss, or in pass protection. He did a great job when it comes to the interview process of that, and just being able to have an opportunity to connect with myself and Sean and Liam on that call.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jordan.
Hey, Thomas, nice to see you.
I froze.
Oh, I think you froze.
Good to see you
Can you
too. No, I'm
Can you
back.
hear me?
Oh yeah, I kind of
Okay.
froze for a second, so we're all good.
Thanks, Thomas. Appreciate you. You mentioned the sort of the separation of the rooms in terms of that planning and design. Because you you made the Rashad Samples hire and know him and know his background and also know maybe what his potential can be as well. Is that important to you to make sure that maybe you are getting him in those rooms, maybe on a deeper level than perhaps you yourself had experienced in the past?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's one thing we kind of talked about, he and I did throughout the entire process. Also just making him feel comfortable with having an opportunity to be able to come here and learn, not just kind of be in, but be forced into a role that he wasn't going to be comfortable with and be able to have an opportunity to learn and grow. So from day one, once he got hired, I was on the phone with him on Zoom calls. I would say the next 2 days, being able to have an opportunity to tell him about, my experience here, what I learned, what he kind of prepared himself for, but also once he got into the building, we got back in the office a few weeks ago, being able to meet with him on a day-to-day basis about the general install, get some input from him, but also being able to, like you just mentioned before, we get into the season, get him involvement in those rooms, get him ahead of the curve, if you will, and be able to take on some of the roles I had in the past when it comes to the run game implementation.
And then when it comes to the meetings you guys are in right now, some of the draft stuff, and obviously you having been a part of those meetings in the past with the Rams and how they specifically do it and how they specifically draft in accordance with how they've built the roster and sort of that ecosystem. What is the expectation from assistant coaches in terms of that added insight, and what are you asked to communicate as far as traits that match the way that they draft and the way that they scout?
That's a great question, Jordan. I think when it comes to individual roles of the position coaches, we have an opportunity to kind of sit down and kind of put together profile tapes. We kind of have a write out of how we see guys at every single position. We talk about height, weight, speed, whether it be arm length, hand size, some of the COD type stuff, but kind of get more specific when it comes to how those guys fit into the roles of our offense, our defense, our special teams, to be able to kind of present that in front of the entire group when it comes to our coaching staff, but also our less in the front office as well, so we can be on the same page from a collaborative effort and have an opportunity to get the best available players.
I guess if I could just real quick, I guess, do you see that importance, that becoming more important? Because I mean, obviously where y'all are picking year after year after year, and then also the way that assistant coaches go out and get the rookie, the college free agent class, and you guys are a lot of times making those calls. Like, do you see being able to really hone in on those particular traits and communicate them effectively with the scouts as maybe more important than ever, considering where you guys are picking and the importance of hitting on those picks?
Another really good question. I would say, just based on my experience in my past, obviously I was kind of just through these past 2 COVID years, we've kind of been all virtual, but having an opportunity to just kind of paint a clear picture of how you see guys, but more importantly, how you see them in the future, talking about their growth, their development, their skill sets, what they can be versus what they are right now. I think it's easy sometimes to take some of the safer picks of guys, but I want to see that guy's growth potential. How good can that guy be in 2-3 years versus how good he is right now? I think it's some guys in the draft. We talk about, obvious first, second round draft picks that are, I guess you could say, no burners, but we're all kind of guessing, projecting. I think nobody has an exact science to them, and they may act like it at times. Being able to try to have an accurate representation of how that guy fits out the room, but also how those guys develop when it comes to the back end roster guys. You talk about, and you speak with, Jeremy Springer and Joe D when it comes to, how your 4th, 5th string guys working every single spot. Can those guys contribute to the overall shape of your team when it comes to making it as complete as possible, offensively, defensively, and special teams?
Thank you so much for the insight. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Gary.
Hey, Thomas, Gary Klein from the LA Times.
How you doing, Gary?
Good. Just wanted to ask you what your experience was like. If I'm not mistaken, you interviewed down in Miami for the head coach position, what that was like for you, and what maybe you learned from having gone through that.
Well, it's a mix of emotions. I think being able to have an opportunity to, first off, again, in my second year, if you'd have told me 2 years ago I had a chance to interview for a head job, I would have told you that you're probably on drugs and probably should go to rehab. But it was a great opportunity, great experience for me. Have an opportunity to be able to, get in those different rooms, kind of get prepared for the future. And I would say, to answer your question as far as what I learned is get all that stuff done in the offseason. I think you talk about being able to get ready for an opponent for the playoffs, and that's my main focus and my main job, but being able to also try to prepare yourself as much as possible as opportunities. A lot easier to kind of be ahead of it, and you never know those opportunities will present themselves, but being able to, go through that experience is no different to me than a player when it comes to the more you do things, the better you become at them. And I think interview process went well. I think I was probably over-prepared for the first Zoom meeting when it comes to what those guys asked me versus what I had ready to go and talk about and present, but hopefully first of many, but who knows?
And I mean, kind of following up on that, in light of Brian Flores lawsuit and some other coaches joining that, looking ahead, are you optimistic that more Black assistants, especially on the offensive side, will get opportunities in the years to come?
Gary, that's another great question. And am I optimistic? I'm probably in the minority, but I'm gonna say no, I'm not, just because I understand the history when it comes, and not just the NFL and the hiring process, but I look at it no different than corporate America. It's no different when it comes to lack of opportunities for guys to become presidents, vice presidents, CEOs of different corporations, until you have an opportunity to, put guys in position to be able to hire differently. And we always talk about trying to find the best candidate, but just, we can say that, but I know it's a different process when it comes to how guys are evaluated, what guys are looking for. And I don't think there's always going to be 100% clarity and honesty when it comes to how people approach, look at the process. I mean, I can handle stuff a lot differently, a lot better when people are just going to tell the honest truth, even if I don't want to hear it, versus trying to give the politically correct answer because you're in front of an audience that you don't want to look or sound bad in front of. But I think it will change at times. I think it also goes in waves, and there'll probably be a reaction, kind of a knee-jerk reaction because of some of the dialogue that's kind of happening. You just mentioned Brian Flores' lawsuit. There might be some guys that just have a spontaneous reaction to it, but just long-term stability of it to me is going to be based upon having NFL head coaches be in a position to actually elevate guys, like you just mentioned, Black coaches in particular, to the spot where you probably have the easiest path to a head coach spot, which is the offensive coordinator or coaching quarterbacks, which is not many of those across the league in general.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Dennis.
Hi, Thomas. Dennis Freeman from News for Us Online.
How you doing, Dennis?
How would you describe your own the trajectory of your own coaching career?
It's funny, Dennis. When I first got into coaching, I didn't really think about being an offensive coordinator or being a head coach. I was just trying to figure out how to be the best I can be at what I was asked to do, which is coaching running backs. And even coming to the NFL, it was, hey, I want to establish myself as one of the best in this game, in this league, maybe get myself a run game coordinator title, and who, kind of sees what happens from there. Kind of just piggybacking off of Gary's question, just because there's not a lot of examples when it comes to Black coordinators, Black head coaches in general. It's not just thought process I really had to begin with. It's because I just, never thought about those opportunities being presented on a regular basis. And I also just know my personality, my demeanor, and how I mess with certain people. But I would say, as far as what the future brings, all I can do is control what I can control. Kind of just still in this quote from Coach Rick, you say all the time to our football team when I was in school, is you control your effort, your attitude every single day, being as prepared as possible. And the rest I can't worry about. I think we spend way too much time in general in life trying to worry about stuff we have zero control over. So all I can do is prepare myself, do the best job I can here. And I'm in a great position, a great place, and I'm loving it being here. So if opportunities present themselves in the future, awesome. If they don't, I'm gonna try to continue to kick ass in my role and be the best I can be for the guys around me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Modesty.
Hey, Thomas, good to see you.
Great to see you too.
When you say you're not optimistic, do you specifically mean about opportunities soon for you? Because you also sounded like you said you thought this would change eventually, but we know eventually can be a long time. Can you kind of clarify that?
Yeah. So Kevin, when it comes to how I respond to each question, to me, it has nothing to do with me at all. If I'd never had an opportunity to interview for a head job in the past or in the future, I would still have the exact same response. I don't view it as a role just about me, myself. I think sometimes when it comes to these conversations, people have this a selfless approach when it comes to how they respond to them, how they react to opportunities being presented to me. I'm just looking at the whole landscape of the NFL, but also when it comes to college football in ways, when it comes to guys having opportunities to get in front of people, to have an opportunity to grow and develop. And unlike some guys I've been around before, to me, it's the access to information, which to me is a big difference. I think when it comes to guys having a chance to interview, which is great, but if you've not been developed, not having an opportunity, like some guys have had an opportunity to kind of get your hand walk through every process, every stage of your life when it comes to the coaching level, when it comes to NFL or college, you got to get stuff held against you when it comes to if you know certain things, if you prepare for certain opportunity when you can't control those things. So when I respond about not being optimistic, to me, it's just based on history and numbers. And, I don't believe that it's impossible at all, but I think most people are not committed to it. I think most people have this reaction to not look bad, want to give the right, correct answer versus actually putting some action behind your words. I mean, words mean nothing to me. Talk is cheap. One of kind of Sean's favorite words when it comes to football, the phrases is, I see better than I hear. So you can talk all you want to, you can talk about initiatives and changing roles and having different programs implemented, but until it changes when it comes to people actually hiring people, me personally, I really don't care what you say because talk is cheap.
Yeah. Just a quick second question. Liam Cohen was talking about how he watched Rams tape pretty much every week, even when he was at Kentucky. How does that knowledge show up as the staff begins meetings and preparations? Is it like he wasn't away during these changes in the offense or what?
That's a good question. I mean, I think being able to, one, his background being here, I think, Liam is a baller. I was excited about having an opportunity to reconnect with him. We actually had a really good dynamic in the 1 year we worked together with the Rams in 2020. But I also kind of stayed in contact with him, kind of watched what he did offensively and kind of carried over some of those same principles, being a little bit different when it comes to some of the drop back and play action pass game they ran in Kentucky. But I think it obviously helps when you have the same system, having continuity, only being just 1 year removed, having a chance to come back. So it's kind of like he's never left in some ways.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we got 2 left. We'll wrap up with Kayla and then Kurt.
Hey, what's up, Thomas? This is Kalen Jones from The Ringer. How you doing, man?
Great. How you doing, Kevin?
Good, good. Real quick, how long have you known BC? Because I used to cover him when he was at UT. So you
Okay.
BC?
So it's funny. So I got connected with him back in, I think it was 2016 when I was at Miami. So it's kind of some mutual friends, got us connected, mutual interests, and kind of just stayed in contact with from there.
Got you. Okay. And so the real question I wanted to ask you, like you spent 9 years coaching at the collegiate level. Obviously, second year in the NFL last year. I mean, what is the optimal coaching experience? Because obviously college football is a completely different atmosphere just because, again, recruiting, everything else. But from a coaching standpoint, what's the most optimal experience?
Yeah, I think it depends on who you talk to. Obviously, I know you're asking me that specific question. When it comes to, college versus the NFL, to me, just the opportunity to have it all about ball. I think there's some opportunities to kind of develop some young guys when it comes to off the field roles, which is what I've always cared the most about. When I became a coach, it wasn't because I wanted to, elevate to different levels. I want to have an opportunity to connect with players, but also make them the best they can be on the field, but more importantly, develop them for life outside of football. I think a lot of guys kind of get, worked into it all being about football exclusively. And when they have an opportunity to have their careers have a tough time moving on past that experience. I think being able to have an opportunity to pour into those guys more. We talk about from a collegiate standpoint, dealing with academic issues, the recruiting aspect of you mentioned, which is very time consuming. I'll kind of leave it at that point when it comes to the thoughts when it comes to the recruiting aspect of it. But I think for me, having a chance to be in this environment that I've always kind of prayed for, to have a chance to learn from great minds, have input, continue to grow and develop, is the best, thought process in place for me. But again, who knows what the future holds as far as where I end up in the long run. But to me, it's kind of just different roles and also different personalities kind of fit into those same those environments when it comes to collegiate coaching versus being in the NFL.
Gotcha, man. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Hey, Thomas, everything about you screams terrific running back. Kurt Sandoval, by the way, from ABC.
Kurt, what's going on?
Good to see you, man.
Me too.
Everything at the beginning, you said you were a little apprehensive when Coach McVay approached you. So what's your biggest challenge working and coaching the tight ends, and kind of how do you embrace that challenge?
Yeah, so good question. I would say when it comes to my hesitation to moving from the running back spot to tight ends, it's not because I don't feel like I could be great at it. It's because I've just committed so much time and history when it comes to being in that role. But I think when you talk about it from a challenging standpoint, it's being able to be in a different environment where you're coaching different things. You talk about being a running backs coach where it's going to be heavily, run game involvement. The pass game is very limited when it comes to what those guys actually have to know. Heavy emphasis on pass protection versus now going to the tight end role where very minimum pass protection talk, more play pass world. You talk about the keepers. You talk about fit into every single concept, but also the formation variations, make sure guys get lined up. Understand the tempo changes, and then understanding how we hit and target blocks up front, being able to be effective at the point of contact. When you talk about our tight ends, you could always have guys who kind of fit a specific role and kind of different modes, but we play with so much tempo. It's hard if you're not going to be able to be effective in every single phase that we have. To my mind, it kind of keeps guys off the field. I don't care what you play, whether it be running back, tight end, or receiver. If you can't be involved in a run game, but also be able to change gears, flex out wide, run the whole route tree and be effective when it comes to catching the ball on a consistent basis. It's going to be very difficult for you to touch the grass on a consistent basis. But from a challenge standpoint, to me, just being able to be in a different environment, different coaching techniques when it comes to my role and responsibility. But I've always viewed things from a all-living perspective anyway. I've always tried to take a big picture role when it comes to what we do. I never got locked in just running backs only. So it's always kind of just seeing the entire big picture, just being able to have now an opportunity to get my hands involved in the coach is going to be a big part of it.